Okay, just got this rod oven in the mail the other day, and I actually put some rod in there just to put some thermal mass in there, because nobody cares how a empty box warms up. And this is only a 5 pound one, so it's not very much, but hopefully you can kind of get an idea here that there's like some ice on the outside of it. I just pulled it out of my freezer to like simulate what it would be like in the wintertime, have it sitting on the service truck or something. And so, yeah, that's about right. My freezer's pretty cold. About, okay, so that's the outside wall, but the rod itself is about 5 degrees. And so it is, whoop, can't really read that for shit. It is 7 o'clock right now, and there's a puppy being cool as hell. And so I'll plug it in. This cord, unfortunately, is really super stiff in the cold. This cord is really kind of a Chinesian piece of shit. So I'm gonna exchange this out for one of the rigid cords, like I like to use, because these are much more flexible. But figured I'd show something right here. So okay, so plugging this in, yeah, right at 7 o'clock, and the tag on the front of this rod oven here says that it takes 70 watts, and I didn't know exactly what the deal was with that. If you read on their website, it sounds like, it says on their website that it'll draw a little bit more wattage at first, and then come down to 70 watts. And you can see right now that we're right at like 70 watts right now. And it actually started out lower than that. But I was playing around with this yesterday. And what's interesting is that it'll actually go up to like 300 watts here in a minute and then come back down and settle out. Which is cool because that means it'll warm up a lot faster than it would if this just drew 70 watts and that's it, that's all. But on the other hand, I didn't know that, and they don't say anything about that on their website or anything. Not that it's the end of the world. Okay, it draws a little bit more wattage than the tag says, but seems like there's not terribly too much information out there about these, at least on YouTube anyways. And I wish that I had known they did that before getting this one. Not, again, like I said, not that it really makes that much of a difference, but works out pretty good because I have a 300 watt power inverter on my service truck, or sorry, a 350 watt power inverter on my service truck. And like I said the other day, this one here got up to 300 watts. But anyways, so yeah, I've been wanting a rod oven for a while, and just finally decided to get one. And I have never had any experience in the past whatsoever with a rod oven. I've actually never used one at all. So finally decided to get one. This one here, like I said, is only a 5 pound one. And so on their tag here, the 5 indicates that it's 5 pounds of rod. And I think it's pretty cool that the serial number is actually hand, like, I'm sure it's one of those engraving pens or whatever, but somebody actually sat down and engraved that tag. I think that's pretty cool. But, it says made in USA on the tag here, and then also on the sticker here. So that's really nice that there are at least some stuff that's, American made anymore. But like I said, this cord is a raging piece of shit. It feels like it would come on like a, Harbor Freight's like, $8.99 angle grinder or something like that. But other than that, this thing seems to be built pretty well and everything. The handle on it is a reasonably substantial handle, and of course you can lay it down like so. can get it in the picture. Lay it down like so and flip the lid open like that. It doesn't have a latch to hold the lid down, which I find slightly annoying. Maybe I'll add one or something like that. But this one here will not fit 18-inch electrodes. It'll only do 14. But it is cool. You can see there's a shitload of insulation around the center compartment there, and easy enough to reach down in there and pull a rod out. The reason that I got this is I use some hard facing rod that seems to like to be extremely dry. Just the tiniest amount of humidity in the rod seems to make a pretty decent difference in how the hard facing rod welds. And also actually just the rod being at 200-300 degrees before you start welding seems to be very beneficial, let alone moisture content or anything like that. But the thing that finally put me over the edge on getting one of these here was I had a call a couple weeks ago for a motorhome that had a crack on a aluminum hydraulic cooler, and he had dumped all of his oil right where he was, and it was big, like 50-foot long, $1 million motorhome. And so it's got a hydraulically driven fan on it, because like the fan sits off to the side from the engine, and it, not that it can't be belt driven, but it would be difficult to belt drive it, and so a lot of them have hydraulic driven fans. But anyways, it was a aluminum oil cooler on a big ass fancy motorhome that had cracked, and I don't have a spool gun at the moment, and I also don't have an AC TIG welder at the moment. So I actually stick welded the aluminum hydraulic cooler, and it was, I don't know, about 1/4 inch thick, something like that. It was actually pretty thick for being a cooler. And you can get aluminum stick welding rod, and it actually works a lot better than you would think. And I suppose I should say too that explain to the guy over the phone that I don't have really fancy setup or nothing like that, but that I can come out and stick weld it and give it my best shot and see what happens, sort of thing. Didn't make any promises or nothing like that, and it worked out great. It got the guy home to where he can order a new cooler and put it on there, and because it was such a big ass motorhome, it would have been horrendously expensive to tow this thing. I don't know, 200 miles that he was going, something like that. Of course, our charge wasn't necessarily cheap, but it was cheaper than a tow truck. And this happened at like, I don't know, I think it was like 5 in the afternoon in a relatively small town. Relatively speaking, I wish it was smaller. And so, had he had it towed back into town to a shop or something like that, no shop was going to open up until Monday. And so it worked out fantastic. We made a bunch of money going out and doing this for this guy. This guy got his motorhome back up and going the very same day, and for a lot less money too, as opposed to calling a tow truck out or something. I know I'm kind of going off in the weeds with my thoughts here and everything, but just figured I'd kind of talk about this real quick. So looks like I missed it, actually. I got talking too much. It's already starting to come back down a bit, but you can see that is higher than it was before. But anyways, I think it's really funny, reading around on the internet and talking to some people and everything, that I've actually talked to a lot of people that, think it's an absolutely horrible idea to try and stick weld something, to try stick welding aluminum. And I'll grant you, it's not it's not an ideal situation. If it was an ideal situation, then in the case of this job, we probably would have pulled the hydraulic cooler off the side of it and taken it into town, into a shop, cleaned it up, with a hot water pressure washer or something like that. We used 15 cans of brake clean, TIG weld it, take it back out to the motorhome, reinstall it. But like I said, that just wasn't really an option. But anyways, when we were out there, welding that cooler, it was kind of drizzling rain a little bit, and it was actually pretty cold out too. And I really wish that I had one of these. Not only just keep the moisture out of the rod, but to pre-warm it as well too. And this UTP stuff here is, really fantastic. And it comes in these like vacuum packed bags, of course, until you cut them open. And then once you cut them open, then, they're no longer sealed from the atmosphere and everything. Granted, it's not the end of the world. I got the job done without having the rod oven, and it worked and everything, so that's cool. But I do really wish that I had one of these things while I was out there. And like I said, it's not really anything fancy or whatever, but at the same time, it also doesn't need to be. The reason that I bought such a small rod oven, this is the smallest one that they make, is that for me and my purposes, I'm not going out to a job most of the time anyways, and sitting there and burning a 50-pound box of rod in one day. Quite frankly, there's probably not a lot of people that do. So this little guy here, this is 532 7018 that's in there at the moment, that will get you through most repair jobs for the kind of stuff that I do anyways. It's it's a blue box. It gets hot, but figured I'd make a video of it and talk real quick about why I wanted to have it, and show that it does actually draw quite a bit more than 70 watts. This will come back down though. Yesterday when I put the kilowatt meter on there, it got down to about 70 watts in a couple hours. I'm going to come back in 1 hour and take the temperature on this thing and see how it's doing. And I guess just in the little bit of time that we've been here, it's come up about 10 degrees or so. I never really trust these things to be super precise, but at least gives you some idea. And I guess one thing that I was going to say too, rambling on about everything here, of course there's pros and cons and trade-offs to everything, and there's benefits and disadvantages and so on and so forth, but man, I've really gotten spoiled with my Trailblazer 325. It is pretty fantastic. I was using it actually last 2 days out on a job, and something like powering a rod oven to me is a pretty perfect example of why something like a Trailblazer with that XL power, the built-in power inverter, is so nice. This thing currently right now is only pulling 160 watts. But if you were to plug this into a standard welder, say like a Miller Big Blue 400 or a Lincoln Ranger or something like that, you plug that into a standard welder and it just, revs full throttle, and you got to listen to the damn thing all the time. Where with a Trailblazer with the built-in inverter, you can plug this guy in, have this, sitting there and warming up, and you can still run your angle grinders and all that kind of stuff off of the inverter, and you can even weld off the damn thing at idle. And it's really pretty cool what technology has done lately. But I guess that's enough of my talking. Come back in an hour and take the temperature.